Hey there guys, Sage Armageddon coming to you again with another Legacy of the Duelist video, specifically speaking on Archfiends. Now in the last video we went over some of the more useful Archfiend cards that you could use in your deck that would actually make it decently competent, so to speak. However, this time we're going to be going over the not so useful Archfiend cards that directly relate to the archetype. This is going to be going over the monsters, spells, and some of the trap cards in general. It won't be going over extra deck monsters, but we'll be going over main deck monsters. And there are quite a lot of these cards that are actually not very good. And I've tried many different ways to try to get them to really work effectively with Archfiends, but it just didn't work out too much for me, unfortunately. And I'm here to share with you some general reasoning. Now, there are approximately 37 cards here, so that's a lot. So I'm not going to break them down as thoroughly as the last group, but I will tell you the relevant reasons as to why it's not good in the first place, or not very useful in general. So, no further ado, here goes. The first card is called A Deal with Dark Ruler. Quick play spell card that reads, if a level 8 or higher monster under your control was sent to the graveyard this turn, special summon one Berserk Dragon from your hand or deck. Now, this card is, if you want to use Berserk Dragon, then I guess you could try to use this, but it's not really good. And, well, let me clarify what I mean. When I say that these cards are not good, I mean in a competitive scenario. If there are no restrictions placed, then technically speaking, you can use whatever you want and make it decently effective. Like, I'm pretty sure there are decks out there that you can fight, and this would actually be a powerful card. These cards might be useful in those situations, but competitively speaking, is so far as Legacy of the Duelist goes, at least, these cards just don't hold up if you're trying to make your deck competitive, or at least tough enough to deal with competitive decks. But keep in mind that, theoretically speaking, you can make whatever you want in Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you're setting a specific standard or goal for your deck, there are certain things that have to be agreed upon in order to meet that standard. So when we have these rules in place, these impositions on what we're trying to do with our decks, we have to look at cards in a manner that fits what we're trying to do. So competitively speaking, this is not a very good card, and neither are the cards that follow up. Yeah, you can search for it with Archfiend Interceptor, but it only really works if you have this when your Archfiend Emperor gets sent to the graveyard, which most of the time is going to be sent to the graveyard at the end of the turn. And then you're going to summon the Berserk Dragon, and he's going to sit there so your opponent can destroy him. He doesn't do anything unless you're battling with him. So if you really want to run it, you can try it, but it's not the greatest thing. There are better options for sure. But heck, maybe if you're a veteran with beatdown decks and you really know what you're doing with them, maybe there's something that you know about when it comes to beatdown decks and their strategies that I don't. But from my experience, this card isn't very good. So I would say axe that, don't run it. So the next card we have Archfiend Labyrinth. This is the Archfiend field spell. All of your fiend type monsters screw your opponent, gain 500 attack. Basically, you can target one of your Archfiend monsters you control, and you can banish any other fiend type or Archfiend type monster, and summon an Archfiend monster that's the same level. It doesn't have to be the same card, it could be the same level. So how you would use this is, say you have Tour Guide of the Underworld and you have Archfiend Commander. You can summon the Tour Guide. She searches for Archfiend Eris, and then you summon the Commander, uses effect to destroy Eris, search your deck, for either this card, Archfiend Labyrinth, if you don't have it, or another useful Archfiend card like Archfiend's Roar or Archfiend Emperor or something. Activate the field spell, then banish the tour guide to summon another Archfiend commander. And you can use this Archfiend commander to attack because it's a 3k beater with the field spell out. Or you can go into a rank 6 XYZ, which this game has some pretty decent ones, like such as Strike Bouncer or Beatrice from the what's the Burning Abyss deck, in which you can use her effect to send more cards to the graveyard. So it's not necessarily bad. It's just the problem with this is, competitively speaking, if a card is going to be a center stone of the deck, it has to be very powerful and very consistent. Archfiends, speaking from experience, do not have an effective and competitive way to effectively use this card. Could you build your deck to make use of this card? Yes, you can. There are plenty of fiends that can be special summoned rather easily, and you can actually make do with it, but you're going to have like 3 cards left in your hand. Let's say you start with 5, you have like 2 or 3 cards left. It's not good for card economy to just go for the goal. You have to have a specific outlook on when you're doing these things. For example, you want to maintain card economy if possible. And you want to be consistent with it, and you don't want to have to struggle too much and you have too many cards in hand to combo to make it happen. That's why using Labyrinth, it would be much better if Tour Guide was a 3, because all you need is Tour Guide and Archfiend Commander. But without that, you need 3 cards. You need the field spell, you need Archfiend Commander, and you need another fiend type monster. And Archfiends are slow. They have trouble getting monsters on the field. They don't have anything or any type of support that helps them to speed up their summoning. So they're very, very slow in that regard. And even Archfiend Commander, even though it's a special summon, you require an Archfiend, which every other Archfiend card that you would try to use, you have to normal summon it first. So technically speaking, even Archfiend Commander is normal summon reliant. So Archfiends are not very consistent at using this card. But it's not bad. It's not that bad. You can still use it with Falling Down. You can search for it directly without terraforming because it's called Archfiend Labyrinth. So if you really need to, for some reason, you can pop it to summon Archfiend Commander. You can banish it from your graveyard for Archfiend Emperor's effect. I want to like it. The artwork's cool. It has a decent effect. But Pandemonium's generally better. Now, you can use this card if you really want to, but just be ready to have a bit of a struggle with it. It's more powerful. It increases the power ceiling of your Archfiend deck, but Pandemonium increases the consistency of your Archfiend deck. And competitively speaking, usually consistency is king. Usually decks trade power for consistency and vice versa. So I'm rambling about this card, please forgive me. But if you did want to run this card, I would probably say treat it as if it's just something extra with your deck. I wouldn't focus on it because it's not consistent enough to do that. Maybe 1 copy if you really want to, 2. But yeah, that's Archfiend's Labyrinth. Next card, Archfiend's Oath. Once per turn, you can pay 500 life points, then declare 1 card name. Excavate the top card of your deck, and if it was the declared card that you named, add it to your hand. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. And this card is not very good. There's no easy way to really set it up. I mean, there are cards like, Convulsion of Nature and things, and such cards that, or if you, for some odd reason, had, what is their name? Sylvan. That's it. A Sylvan deck where their cards are usually face up on the deck. Then you could probably make use of this card, but it's not very good in Archfiends, to be honest with you. And that's the trend for a lot of these quote unquote Archfiend support cards. They kind of actually suck in Archfiends, but they work with other builds. But yeah, that's Archfiend's Oath. It's not a very good card. I would recommend running 0 unless you're aware of a strategy that's easy to do and consistent and doesn't screw over your card economy. Next card, Axe of Despair. The equipped monster gains 1,000 attack. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you contribute 1 monster. Place this card on the top of your deck. All you Yu-Gi-Oh veterans know the deal with this one. It's an equip spell. Equip spell is an easy way to lose card advantage and to suffer with card economy. Simple. You summon a monster. If you're fighting a smart opponent, they're going to be cautious about what they do against you. You summon a monster, you equip the Axe of Despair to it, and then you decide that you want to attack or something like that, and then they activate Mirror Force. Or you summon the monster, equip the spell card to it, and then they activate a quick effect, or a use compulsory evacuation device or something like that. Dimensional Prison. There are a lot of cards. You lose 2 cards and they only lose 1. So you go -1 and they get the card advantage over you as a result. It doesn't do anything else but make your attack higher. Yeah, you can search for it with Heiress to School, but it's not really that great, to be honest with you. Equipped spell cards generally are not good unless it's something like that takes your opponent's monster that summons something from the graveyard, like Premature Burial or Galaxy Zero or something. But other than that, increasing your attack, you don't need to increase your attack. Archfiend's already big, so I'll recommend running 0. Like I said, if you're just trying to build a deck just to have fun or to just play the game and not worry about that, you can build whatever you want to build and nobody can tell you what to do. However, if you're trying to hold your deck to a standard, okay, I want to beat this deck, I want to be able to beat Cosmos, I want to be able to beat all the other crap that people are using online in the meta, like Satellars and all that stuff, you're going to have to rethink some things, and equip spell cards, especially ones that increase attack, are a big no-no. So I'll run 0. Next card, Checkmate. Tribute 1 Archfiend monster on your side of the field. During this turn, 1 Terror King Archfiend on your side of the field can attack your opponent's life points directly. Okay, you don't need me to tell you why it's bad. You have to sacrifice an Archfiend monster just so your Terror King Archfiend can attack your opponent directly for 2,000 damage. You might as well just run 2 meteors, and I forgot what it's called, Meteor of Destruction or something like that, that burns your opponent for 1,000 life points. Or heck, run 2 Ukazis or something in your deck. You'd be better off just running burn cards in your deck, is what I'm saying. All you have to do is draw them, play them. If you really want to burn your opponent that bad, just run burn cards. This card, you have to have this card in your hand, which there's virtually no easy way to search for it. You have to have Terror King Archfiend on the field, which he's hard to get out in Archfiends because he requires you to control an Archfiend before you can summon him. Face up, you can still set him, but you can't summon him. And then on top of that, you have to attribute another Archfiend monster. So you're losing 2 cards just so Terror King Archfiend can attack your opponent directly. That's absolutely terrible. Run 0. Like I said, if you're just having fun, just playing casually, you can do whatever you want, build any type of deck you want. But if you hold your deck to any standards, don't run this card because it is absolutely terrible. It's horrible. Run 0 is what I'm saying. Next card, Gladiator Beasts Battle Archfiend Shield. Equipped only to a Gladiator Beast monster. I don't need to read any further because it's not an Archfiend card technically. I mean, it is, and that's what I was saying earlier about you'll find a lot of these cards have Archfiend in their name, but they have nothing to do with the Archfiend archetype. This is a Gladiator Beast spell card. I mean, if you run Glad Beasts and you want to search for this card, you could add a Heiress or 2 in your deck and then add in a Foolish Burial or something. I don't know why you would do that, but use it in Glad Beasts if you run Gladiator Beasts. This card is not good in Archfiends at all. And it's an equip spell. So run 0. Next card, Battle Scar, trap card. Select one Archfiend monster on your side of the field to activate this card. Your opponent also pays the same life points that you pay for the selected monster during the standby phase. If this card is removed from the field, destroy the selected monster. When the selected monster is removed from the field, destroy this card. Card is not very good. All it does is it makes your opponent pay life points when you pay life points. Everybody knows that in this game, doing stuff and using resources directly against your opponent's life points, unless you're about to kill them, like in a burn deck, is useless. If you want to win in Yu-Gi-Oh! 99% of the time, most competitive decks, you kill their resources and stop their attempts at playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then you win. And then you just attack them until they die. Using cards and resources, especially the fact that it's a slow trap card, just to burn your opponent 800 life points when you have to pay life points, it's not good at all. Run 0 copies of this if you're trying to make a decent build. Next card, Nightmare Archfiends. Tribute 1 monster and special summon 3 Nightmare Archfiend tokens. Fiend type, dark, level 6, 2000 attack and defense to your opponent's side of the field in an attack position. When a Nightmare Archfiend token is destroyed, its controller takes 800 damage. Okay. It's a trap card, so you have to wait a turn after setting it. Then you have to tribute 1 monster on your side of the field. Even though the card doesn't say it has to be on your side of the field, it has to be on your side of the field. You tribute it? Well, actually, maybe I will actually need to study this card because it just says tribute 1 monster. I should try this card and see if it works on the opponent. If it works on the opponent, this might be a pretty decent trap card, but I'm pretty sure you have to tribute your monster. But if I'm wrong, I will let you guys know and make an update here. But I'll test it out. If you can tribute any monster you want to, this card might have some potential. Because you can screw your opponent out of a play when they're trying to, exceed or synchro or something. If it's as I say, and you can tribute, and you have to tribute one of your monsters on your side of the field, no. You have to wait a turn to use a trap card so that you can tribute one of your monsters to give your opponent 3 level 6 dark monsters with 2000 attack and defense. So you're trading 2 cards to give your opponent 3 free resources to tribute, to synchro, to attack you with, to defend themselves. And all you get is that when the tokens are destroyed, your opponent takes 800 damage. There's nothing else to really say about it. If I'm right, 0, never use it. If you take your stuff seriously. If I'm wrong, then it might actually be useful. Your opponent's trying to go for... You can search for this card with Archfiends. You set it. Your opponent's trying to go for a play to XYZ. They summon their level 4, and then they go to summon another level 4, and then you just tribute one of their monsters to summon 3 tokens in defense mode. If it works that way, this card is actually pretty dang good. But I don't think it does. So I'll let you guys know. If I'm right, short moral of the story, if I'm correct, run 0, never look at this card. Next card, Archfiend Marmot of Nefariousness. It's a level 2 normal monster. It's an earth monster and it's a beast. That's Archfiend in the name, but unless you make it some kind of weird rank 2 deck, don't run this card in Archfiends. Don't, please. It's not good at all. The next card, Archfiend Mirror. Same thing, except this card's typing is a little better. It's actually a fiend and it's a dark type. 700 attack and defense, level 2. You don't want to be running level 2 vanilla monsters in your Archfiend deck unless you're playing something super casual and you don't care about your deck really being good, stay very far away from this card. There are no rank 2s that help Archfiends out in their strategy. It's not very good. Next card, Archfiend Soldier. 1900 attack and defense, level 4, Dark Fiend type monster. This is better. If you're going to run a normal monster, you run this. It's got high attack. So if you have the field spell, it becomes 2400. You can actually use a card called Unexpected Die, which lets you special summon a level 4 or lower normal monster from your deck to the field. You could actually use that to help with your deck's special summoning capabilities, and then run maybe 2 Archfiend Soldiers, or maybe run 3 Archfiend Soldiers, 3 Unexpected Die, and a Rescue Rabbit or something like that. This will help you to spam Archfiends on the field pretty decently. It's not the best thing in the world because you have to run normals. Vanilla monsters are almost not good unless you have a really good strategy like Brilliant Fusion or something like that. But it's better than the other two. So you can at least attack with it. And it can hold its own in combat. It's not the worst card ever. It's just you generally want to avoid vanillas unless you have a very good reason to run them. So that's Archfiend Soldier, depending on what you decide to do. If you run the Labyrinth build and you want to use the spell card Unexpected Die to help you special summon to use the field spell, then you could probably run about 2 to 3 of these. Add a Rescue Rabbit in there. So that's my take on that card. Next card, Beast of Tower. Level 6 monster with 2400 attack and defense. Fiend type monster, and it's dark. If you're going to run a level 6 monster, unless you're just running a deck that you want all level 6 Archfiends in, just run, if you really want to run a vanilla level 6 Fiend type monster, just run Summon Skull. It's stronger. And I can't say a Summon Skull looks cooler. This card does have pretty decent artwork. But just use Summon Skull. It's probably just better to do so. I mean, this card has better defense, but you're not going to be summoning these guys to put them in defense now, are we? You're summoning them to attack with if you actually do summon. So, next card, speak of the devil, Summon Skull himself. He has 100 more attack points than Beast of Tower. Same level, same type, same attribute. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend ever using these vanilla monsters at all. Unless you're using some kind of rich... Like I said, if you have a good purpose, like you're using a ritual deck and with advanced ritual art or something, then they have a purpose. Normally, vanilla monsters are just used to fuel actual good cards. Like Brilliant Fusion. You have to run a Gem Knight. Usually Gem Knight Garnet. You run the Gem Knight. And then, that's just the part. That's how Konami designed it to balance it. A good card. You have a chance of actually crashing, or it makes it more interesting, shall we say? Because there's a chance you might draw that bad card. So if you're running Meteor Black Dragon or Archfiend Black Dragon or something like that, and using the Red Eyes Fusion card, then you could use these. But just to have them in the Archfiend deck, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're playing super casual. So that's my take on it. Archfiend Emperess is the next card. Level 8, 2900 attack, 2100 defense, Dark Fiend. Reads, if exactly one face-up Dark Fiend type monster on the field, except this card, of course, would be destroyed, you can remove from play one Dark Fiend type monster from your graveyard instead. When this card is destroyed and sent from the field to the graveyard, you can select one level 6 or higher Dark Fiend type monster in your graveyard, except Archfiend Emperess, and special summon it. Now, this card is not the worst. Some people be like, no, this card is really bad. Because technically speaking, you can't really... There's no way to really cheat her out of your hand, shall we say. But she's good trade-in fodder. along with Archfiend Emperor. If you're running Archfiend Labyrinth and you plan on using Emperor, this is your... Unless you plan on killing your opponent with the Archfiend Emperors because of their higher attack points. It's only 100 points higher, by the way. Unless you're just trying to get pure damage and blow up your opponent's stuff. Normally, if you use the field spell Archfiend Labyrinth, this with Archfiend Emperor, this is the Archfiend card that you would summon, because she can save. Normally, you summon Archfiend Emperor, and she can save him from blowing himself up at the end of the turn with her effect. And on top of that, if your opponent decides to try to board wipe, like a Raigeki or a Dark Hole, while you have Archfiend Emperor and Archfiend Empress on the board or something, she can bring him back. Or if you just have her on the board and your opponent destroys her outside of battle, you can just bring an Archfiend back. I mean, realistically speaking, Archfiends are probably not going to be beat in battle unless you're fighting like Galaxy Photons or Cyber Dragon or something, because they're pretty freaking big, especially with the field spell. So you'd be 3,400 attack beater. So she's not the worst, but I would recommend running one, because outside of Labyrinth and sending her to the graveyard and using Archfiend's Roar or Archfiend's Cavalry, there's no real way to really cheat her out, shall we say. See, Archfiend Emperor, you can get away with running 3 copies of that because you can just normal summon it. You don't have to gimmick the card out. So I would recommend running this as one as a part of a Labyrinth engine or something. But yeah, it's not the worst card in the world, but it's definitely not the best. So next card we have is Archfiend Giant. If this face-up card on the field will be destroyed by a card effect, you can pay 500 life points instead. This effect can only be used once while this card is face-up on the field. If this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Archfiend monster from your hand. Now, this card it's okay. I wouldn't recommend using it though, because like I said, there's no way to really cheat it out. You have to tribute summon. And if you're going to tribute summon an Archfiend monster, it's probably better to tribute summon Archfiend Commander, because if he's tribute summon, you get another level 6 from your graveyard to go into a rank 6 play. Archfiend Giant, you just tribute summon him to, get him out. Unless you cheat him out with Labyrinth, the field spell. That's one thing, I suppose. And he does have a built-in protection effect, so you can Archfiend's Roar this guy from the graveyard, and you can keep him alive. But I wouldn't really recommend it. The main thing that's really holding this card back, unfortunately, is that when he's destroyed, you can you special summon the Archfiend from your hand. If it lets you summon the Archfiend from your deck or from your graveyard, I would probably say, try to run at least one copy of this card, because it would be very good, especially with Archfiend's Roar. But you have to summon it from your hand. That's not good for card economy. Plus, like I said, there's no real way to cheat this card out. Archfiends don't have a proper engine to really quickly and effectively set up a graveyard. So if you wanted to throw something into the graveyard, you'd probably rather put an Heiress or an Empress or a Cavalry or something like that into the graveyard, but not this guy. If you really want to run him, I guess you can run one in a Labyrinth build, but I wouldn't recommend it. I've tried him, and he just clogged my hands a lot when I drew him. So, not the best card. If you do run him, run one copy of it, I would say. Next card we have is Archfiend Interceptor. While you control this face-up card in attack position, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. 1,400 attack, 1,600 defense. It is level 4 Dark Fiend. The artwork is interesting, but when your opponent attacks, they just take 500 damage. Next, Don't run this card. Trust me. Archfiend of Guilford is the next card. Another level 6 Dark Fiend, Archfiend monster. When this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster on the field and equip that target with this card. That monster loses 500 attack while equipped it with this card. I guess it's better than Axe of Despair because your opponent's not going to be willing to get rid of their monster just to save its attack points. But this card has some problems. It says the card states when this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one face-up monster on the field. So that means you can easily miss the timing of this card. If, for example, you use Dark Guilford to throw this card from your hand to the graveyard, Dark Guilford's other effect would initiate to send another dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, and this card will miss its timing. Dark Guilford is the only card I could think of off the top of my head that if you use either of his effects, including his special summon effect, to throw this guy out, you're going to miss the timing. Plus, he doesn't do anything except lower your opponent's monster's attack by 500. Why not just destroy the monster? It says when this card is sent to the graveyard, like let's say Foolish Burial, then you can reduce your opponent's monster's attack. No, why not use Foolish Burial to send Empress to the graveyard, search for Archfiend Eccentric, summon Archfiend Eccentric, and then literally blow up the monster. I mean, yeah, sure, you don't have to summon anything, but you're not doing anything to your opponent's resources. Why should you use a resource in your deck, especially level 6, that you can miss the timing just to reduce their attack by 500? If it was more, like 2,500, yeah, sure. But 500 attack, no. I would recommend not running this card at all. It's not very good at all. Next card, Seibert Speed. At the beginning of your draw phase, if you have no cards in your hand, draw one more card in addition to your normal draw. During your end phase, if you have one or more cards in your hand, destroy this card. The card is slow. You have to, it only works at the beginning of your draw phase if you have no cards in your hand. And during your end phase, if you summon this card and you have one or more cards in your hand, destroy this card. So you literally have to summon this card when you have no other cards in your hand. Most likely an attack position, which it only has 1,000 attack. It has 2,000 defense. But if you set it, there's no guarantee that your opponent is going to actually attack it or flip it. And in this game, you don't want to rely on your opponent in order to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not good. Because if they don't do what you need them to do, then you can't play. But they can still play. You don't want to rely on your opponent. And plus, who's to say they won't summon a monster with more than 2,000 attack and run it over, or summon a monster and blow it up? This card is not good. If you're in a situation with Archfiends, you have no cards in your hand, but your opponent does, you're probably going to lose the game. I'm just saying. This card is very bad. It's very bad. I can't even really describe otherwise. I mean, some people might think, no, this card is good, you can make use of it. No. In a competitive scenario, you cannot make use of this. Unless there's a quick play spell card that I don't know of, where you can activate it when your opponent ends their turn, summon this card to the field, and then get your cards. But I don't think that exists. If it does, please let me know, because I can develop a very good strategy with it. But I don't think such a thing exists, honestly. Unless you call it a haunted it. But that's too much work, too much effort. You know. It's just to draw one more card. No. No. I'm sorry, but this card is not good at all. Run 0. Next card, Dark Bishop Archfiend. A level 3 water type monster, 300 attack and 1400 defense. Now we're getting to some of the chest Archfiends. This card reads, The controller of this card pays 500 life points during each of his or her standby phases. This is not optional. When an Archfiend monster card on your side of the field is targeted by the effect of a card controlled by your opponent, when resolving this effect, roll a 6-sided die. If the result is 1, 3, or 6, negate the effect and destroy the opponent's card. Now, the effect where you roll the die in order to possibly negate your opponent's effect, it'd be easy to see that as being like, oh, well, that's terrible. You know, you're gambling. But if you think about it this way, at least you have a chance to save your monster. When most monsters will just get destroyed. Like, let's say you have a Thunder King Ryo. Thunder King does not have anything that prevents him from being stolen by your opponent or you know, targeted or anything like that. They do what they want. Smashing, ground, fissure, whatever. So, these Archfiends, their luck or die roll is actually pretty interesting. They can minus your opponent if you happen to get lucky. So it's not, that effect is not the worst. However, let's not get too happy. This card is terrible. And that's because it's slow. Its attack and defense are pitiful. It's a water monster. I can't think of a way to really use that on Archfiends. It requires you to have another Archfiend to really, because they can just run this card over. 1400 defense is very small. 2000 defense, okay. 1400, no. It's weak. You're gonna have to summon it in attack mode most of the time because Archfiends are not fast at all. He could be used like with another chest Archfiend to add additional die roll to increase the chance of negating something, but you're just not realistically going to get this and another Archfiend card on the field and make use of its effect. Like, you're just not going to do it without wasting card economy and running very bricky and not so good cards. I would say run 0 of this guy. If you're running a chest Archfiend deck casually, just for the fun of it, like I said, do whatever you want to. Run it 1, 3, 2, however many you want. But if you're trying to build a competitive, or not even necessarily competitive, an Archfiend deck to its maximum potential that can actually take on other decks respectfully, don't run this card at all. Period. Please, I'm begging you, don't run this card. It's not good. So, the next card is, and this is going to be the last card for this first part, is this Desrug Archfiend. The controller of this card pays 500 life points during each of his or her standby phases. This is not optional again. When this card is targeted by a card effect controlled by your opponent, when resolving the effect, roll a 6-sided die. If the result is 3, negate the effect and destroy the opponent's card. When a Terror King Archfiend on your side of the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to special summon the Terror King Archfiend from your graveyard. Okay, so it has the die roll effect. It's only a 3, but a 1 out of 6 chance is better than a 0 out of 6 chance. So, I guess. But this card is not very good because it requires you to have this card in your hand. And it also requires you to have Terror King Archfiend on the field, which is hard to do on its own. There's no real way to easily get Terror King Archfiend on the field. And there's no real quick way to do that and get this card in your hand. That's the problem. This card doesn't do anything else. I mean, its attack and defense are 1100 attack, 1800 defense. Defense is okay. It's level 3, and its best attribute is literally its attribute. It's a light monster, a light fiend type monster. That's pretty cool. But unfortunately, it's not very good at all. And that's just being perfectly honest. Nobody runs Terror King like that, even in Archfiends. If somebody does it, they usually tech in a single Terror King Archfiend, because Terror King Archfiend, as hard as he is to summon, is probably the only effective chest Archfiend. He's the only one, because when you attack and destroy a monster, they don't get their effect. And even if they're sent to the graveyard, so if they have a Sandgin or something, even though it's banned, and you destroy it, or if they have a Burning Abyss monster, or any other type of floater, a card that says you get paid when this card is destroyed, he says, no, you don't get paid. Sorry. And he negates the effect and it's done. That's it. You're fighting Yang Zings or something. The Yang Zings can be very annoying to deal with because when they're destroyed by battle, they summon another Yang Zing. This card shuts it down. Unless they have some of their support cards in the back row. But this card stops floating, pretty much. It stops stupid effects that are annoying when he attacks them. So, that's Desrig Archfiend. If you tech in a single Terror King, that's not good. It's not going to work out. It's just not good. You can try it if you want to, but I would recommend running 0 of this at all times if you're trying to build a series or a decent deck. So, don't run this card, even if you do run Terror King Archfiend, trust me. But that's going to be it for this video. There are actually approximately approximately 17 more cards to go over in this section. So I'm going to make a part 2 of this, but it's getting kind of long-winded. The video is over 40 minutes already. So I'm going to make another one, a part 2 to the not so useful Archfiend cards and go over those. But we went over a decent amount of them, and I was hopefully able to explain why the cards are not all that good. Like I said, I want to stress yet again, if you're trying to just build a deck to just have fun because you like it, you can build whatever you want to. There are no restrictions. Unless Konami says that you can't use this card because it's banned or something like that. But no one can tell you that you can't use this card because it's bad, or don't use this card because it's not good or something like that. If you're just trying to build a deck to play and just have fun, you don't care about winning, you don't care about beating some of the top decks or playing ranked and actually winning and making progress. If you just want to play the game to just enjoy it and play casually, you can use these cards. If you're in that scenario, battling a friend who also has the same mentality and approach, some of these cards will magically become better. Because certain cards are only bad because of the competition that they have to deal with. Some of these cards back then, such as Archfiend Labyrinth, would be amazing back then during like GOAT format, or when Archfiends first came out. It would be very good because your Archfiends would be impossible to run over because of their huge attack points. So, but power creep is a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! And these cards don't hold up to competitive decks. So if you're trying to say that I want my Archfiend deck to be good, I want it to be consistent, and I want it to be able to beat opponents using Cosmos or other top tier decks and things like that, then don't use these cards for the most part, except for some of them, and only if you have a really good reason for doing it. But a lot of these cards, like the normal monsters and stuff, don't use them in that scenario because you're just going to lose games. There are other reasons, of course, why not to use the cards, but they're kind of esoteric and extraneous, shall we say. In layman's terms, there's stuff that you don't need to worry about. They're only specific situations. I gave the general breakdown of the cards and why they're not good in a competitive scenario. Hopefully we can get to the next video soon, and there I'll be able to break down the rest of the not so great Archfiend cards. But until next time, that's all I have for you guys now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and possibly even subscribe if it's something that you really want to do. I'm going to be coming up with more of this content soon for Legacy of the Duelist and even other games. So stay tuned and let's see what we can come up with, shall we? But that's all I have for now. Have a blessed day. Take care. Sage Armageddon out.